all get to heaven. Sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing his mercy and his grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, he'll prepare for us a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. While we walk the pilgrim pathway, clouds will overspread the sky. But when traveling days are over, not a shadow, not a sigh. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Onward to the prize before us, soon his beauty will behold. Soon the pearly gates will open, we shall tread the streets of gold. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. And I love to tell the story. And his glory, of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story because I know 'tis true. It satisfies my longings as nothing else can do. I love to tell the story, 'twill be my theme in glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story, 'tis pleasant to repeat what seems each time I tell it more wonderfully sweet. For I love to tell the story, for some have never heard the message of salvation in God's own holy word. I love to tell the story, 'twill be my theme in glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and I sing the new song. 'Twill be that old story that I have loved so long. I love to tell the story. 'Twill be my theme in glory to tell the old story of Jesus and his love.
Amen. Thank you. So, what'd you learn about God this week? Nothing? Are they? Yeah, he regretted making Saul king. Yeah, he knew. But well, and in one place it says right before Noah that he regretted he made man. So, any verses that stood out to you? I'm going to pull this up here today because yes, well, I'm getting crud again and a long day and a long drive home yesterday and all of that kind of combined together. But I did get to see the total eclipse, so it was all worth it. We went to Little Rock. That's where my daughter lives, but she teaches in Conway, and their school was in the Path of Totality, and they had a whole bunch of things going on, and so we went up to her school and saw it there. They had music. The music department did some stuff, and the drama department, the dance group, and the math department had some things. The physics department had some stuff. It was a whole bunch of things going on, so it was really neat. So we're going to finish Judges this week. We finished Judges. We did all of Ruth and started 1 Samuel. So there's a lot of things to cover. We finished the story of Samson. Where did Samson's strength come from? God. Where did he think it came from? His hair, right. And how did he die? He was blind, yeah. Yeah. I don't know exactly how the building was built, but apparently there were two pillars that held the roof up, and they were close enough together to get, because he put his hands on either side of them and pushed. And he got his strength back for that one more time, and he what was significant about that? What did it say about his death? Yeah, more Philistines were killed that one time than he did in his lifetime. Yeah, I think they were Philistines. Now, after I say that, I'm thinking, okay, was that or the Amorites or whoever? But anyway, more of them died. But it was Philistines, yes, because Delilah was a Philistine. What about Micah? He was one of the last people in the book of Judges. Y'all know who he was? No, he was Ephraimite, I think. And he stole some gold from his mom, and then repented of it, confessed, and his mom made an idol from it. And then he went and he made his son priest with this idol. And then a Levite came along, and he got this Levite to become his Levite and to actually have a Levite as a priest. And now he does say it's really significant. This and I didn't have it in here, but he said, now that I have a Levite for a priest, God will bless me. And, that was the common belief, I guess, is that you had direct access through a Levite, then you should be blessed. But what happened? There were a group of Danites that came. Be a priest for the whole tribe of Dan. And they stole his idols. They stole his priest. Why were they looking for a new place to live? The Danites, not Micah. Well, they couldn't drive the Canaanites out, probably because they weren't trying very hard. They probably had a little bit of battle and wasn't going the way they thought it should, and so they decided they needed to find some other place to live and leave the Canaanites alone. Huh? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's possible too. And then they stole the priests, they stole the idols, and Micah and his family, his people in his family, and his slaves or whatever, servants, they all went to run him down, and basically the Danites said, don't mess with us. We're bigger than you. We'll destroy you. Just going back to your house, right? And then there was the last story was about a Levite who was headed home to I'm trying to think, Bethlehem. He's headed home to Judea, and his servant tried to get him to stop at Jerusalem, spend the night, and he said, "No, I'm not going to spend the night in an ungodly place. So we'll go on to the home of the Benjamites." And I kind of remember if it was Bethlehem or someplace else. I'd have to look back. But anyway, okay, in Bethlehem. And what happened when he got there?
Nobody would invite him.
Right, except one old man took him into his home. And then what happened?
Finally, somebody did.
Yeah. The wicked men of the city did what? Yeah, wanted him to come out because they wanted to have sex with him. And the old man was like, "No, don't do that." And they just kept pressing and kept pressing. And so the Levite pushed his concubine out, the one that he had traveled, all this way to get her back from her family or whatever. And what happened to her? Yeah, abused her and killed her. Tribes. Yeah. And so all the tribes got together and come back down to attack the Benjamites. And they attacked and got defeated, and they attacked and got defeated. And the third time they attacked, and finally God gave them over. But the Benjamites, it didn't seem like they ever repented, did they? They were, we're going to fight you until the end, kind of. It was also, do you know where Saul was from? He was a Benjamite from that tribe. So then we go to the book of Ruth. Why did Ruth want to go with Naomi? Yeah, I think that was it. I think she realized that God is God, and that the gods of the Moabites were not. And of course, I guess I skipped a lot. Naomi and her husband Elkanah, they went to Moab, which they were specifically told not to do in Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, somewhere in there, and they went anyway. And while they were there, Elkanah and the two sons both died, and she was left. Naomi's left with her two daughters-in-law, and she told told them both to stay there, but Ruth didn't want to. And there's a famous verse in there that says, "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your God will be my God, and where you die, I will die." I'm not sure exact quote, but yeah, your people will be my people. And we use that a lot for weddings and stuff, but this was not this was a daughter-in-law talking to her mother-in-law. That's where the verse comes from. And so they go back, and Ruth ends up going out and picking grain, and it just happens to be Boaz's property, which is not a happenstance. It was not just happening. It was God's plan for her to go there. Yes, he orchestrated it. What was the role of the kinsman redeemer? Right. Right. And there were several things about it. One was the kinsman redeemer was also the one that was supposed to take a vengeance if a person was killed. That was their responsibility to kill the person that killed, if it's a murder kind of thing. But then he's also, if a person was in debt in some way, then he was supposed to step in and try to redeem him if he could. That's kind of what happens here, because Elkanah has died. We've got this property that Naomi can't legally own because she's a woman. So they're trying to find out what to do with it. And Boaz says he's a close kinsman, but there's one closer. But the one closer, if he would have taken it, then he would have to forfeit his inheritance and name all of his kids and everything in the inheritance of Elkanah or whoever it would be there. And he didn't want to do that, so Boaz said he would. So who in the story, who doesn't seem to trust God, and who has the struggle with trusting God? Yes. Naomi had a little trouble trusting God, but Ruth trusted him completely, didn't she? It's very kind of ironic that the one from Moab was the one that trusted God more and believed in God more than the Israelite. Yes, she had. She'd lost her husband and both sons. Yes. And she's probably a little depressed from all of that. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, she didn't want to be called Naomi, and I don't remember what Naomi means, but she wanted to be called Mara, which is bitter. Anyway, and who was Ruth? Genealogically. Yes. I really believe that the two spies, I think I told you this last week, the two spies that went to go out and check out Jericho, I think one of them was Salmon, who married Rahab, and then their son was Boaz, who married Ruth, and then you have Obed, Jesse, and David. Yeah. I think I got them all in there. All right, 1 Samuel. First thing we hear about is Samuel's mother going and praying, and she was just very brokenhearted about the fact that she didn't have any kids, and she was praying, her mouth was moving, but she wasn't saying anything. And Eli the priest looked at her and thought she was drunk. And then when she said, "No, I'm just deeply burdened in a prayer," and he said, "Go your way. God will answer your prayer." And so she had a son named Samuel, and when he was 2 or 3 years old, when he was weaned and all, she took him to the temple and gave him to Eli, and he became a servant of Eli to help him out. What was the first story about Samuel? God calling him. How many times did he call him? 3. Why do you think it took 3 times before he realized it? All right. And it had been a long time since anybody had heard directly from God. That's why Eli at first didn't recognize that it was God. He kept saying, "No, I didn't call you, and I didn't call you." And then it hit him that, "Oh, I bet that was God." And So he tells him Samuel tells Eli exactly what God told him to do. And a little bit later, there's a battle, and Eli's two sons, I just went blank on their names, Phineas and Hophni and Phineas. And they went out with the ark because they thought, well, we weren't winning, so let's bring the ark out here, and we'll have the God in our camp, and so then we'll win. And that's kind of presumptuous of them, or very presumptuous, not kind of, but very presumptuous of them to think that. And they got beat again, right? Yes, sir. Right. Yeah. Yeah, they were excited about all of that and shouted, and it made the Philistines afraid there for a while. But then they said, well, you're going to have to be courageous because even they've got God in their camp, we can still defeat them, and they did. And news came back to Eli, and what was the bad news that was most devastating to Eli? The ark was captured. He was all right with his two sons being killed, but the ark being captured, that's what did it. And what happened to him? Fell off his chair and broke his neck. That's right. So then they took the ark into one of the cities of Philistia, and the people broke out in tumors, and there were rats everywhere, and so they moved it to a different town and tried to move it to a third town, and then they got together and said, we don't want this anymore. And so what did they do? Put it on a cart being pulled by 2 milk cows, okay? Cows with calves. Why would they use cows with calves? Yes. And if they went back to their home, then they said, well, this has nothing to do with God. It's just a coincidence that all this is happening. But if those 2 milk cows take off and they go straight to the Israelites, then we know that it was God that did all of this stuff. And the milk cows went straight to Israel, right? Yes, they made 5 gold tumors and 5 gold rats, which were 5. Why 5? 5 kings and 5 large cities, and then the tumors were in the shape. It's a gold piece in shape of the tumor, and in the shape of rats. So, okay. And when all that happened, and Eli died, his daughter-in-law, one of his son's daughters, was having a baby, and she died in childbirth, but she named the baby what? Ichabod. What means? I think it's the glory has left. I put Ebenezer down. We'll get to that in a minute, but I was looking at this, reading what does it mean, and I was thinking of Ichabod. The glory has left Israel. Yeah. And then, let me see, what's next? The ark is returned in a cart. Remember that, because that's going to be important later. And when they first brought it back, a bunch of people looked inside it, and they were killed. God put them to death for looking inside the ark. And so they shipped it to another place called, Kiriath Jearim. And that's where it stayed for a long time. Yes, they broke the cart up, used it as wood, sacrificed the cows. It was there 20 years. I knew it was there a long time. Right, they did. And they did it themselves instead of having a priest do it, or a Levite do it. But I guess God overlooked all of that. So when the people came and they asked for a king, who were they rejecting? God, yeah. It wasn't that they were rejecting Samuel. So let's see, we've already talked about that. How long did Samuel tell Saul to wait before they attacked? I think it was 7 days. I don't have it written down, but I'm pretty sure it was 7 days. How long did he wait? 7 days. And Samuel still wasn't there. So what did he do? Yeah, he assumed the role of priest. He offered the sacrifice himself, which was wrong. He wasn't supposed to do that. And he knew it was wrong. He did a lot of things that he knew was wrong, but he did it anyway. And God punished him for that. Later, they were fighting a battle. And, well, actually, Jonathan started the battle. Do y'all remember it? He and his armor bearer were in the mountain someplace. They saw this group of Philistines over against around on another side of a gully, and he said, "Well, if they tell us to come over there, then we know that God's gonna deliver them in our hands. If they tell us to wait there while they came over to us, then we better get out of here." And so when they made themselves visible, they said, "Well, come on over here and we'll fight you, or we'll show you a thing or two," something like that. And so Saul and his armor bearer went over and they killed at least 20, Saul and his armor bearer. And what would happen, from what I understand about this, Jonathan was out there fighting, and he would like wound them, and they'd fall down, and the armor bearer behind him with the spear or whatever, and killing them and making sure they were dead. So Jonathan did most of that. And then when they saw the turmoil and everything going on, they realized Jonathan wasn't in camp, and so they attacked. And they drove the Philistines back. But Saul made a vow. What was that? A vow, I guess. No one to eat or drink anything until they had finished. And no. That's right. It's not a good decision. I said he made a lot of bad choices. I remember, and Bob, you will remember which coach I'm talking about, but there was a coach, I think it was at OU, if I remember right, coach at OU, that when they were doing practices during the summer, he wouldn't let them drink water until a certain time because they just weren't, he just thought they were taking off, making it too easy, going over to get a drink every time they turned around instead of, do you remember that? I heard that story. Okay. Anyway, yeah, that's the same kind of thing. They need energy. And Jonathan didn't know that. And he was walking by and he saw some honey, and he put his spear in there, pulled it up, and ate some honey, and it made him a lot. He got his energy back, and so then it went down to between the two of them. First it was Saul and Jonathan here, the rest of the Israelites there, and it fell to Saul and Jonathan, and then between him it came to Jonathan, and Saul was going to kill him. I really think he was planning on killing him. But the people said, no, Jonathan was one that started all this. He was the one that led in the battle. We can't kill him. But then the very next thing is that they're going to fight someone else, and they ask for an answer. Are we going to be able to defeat them? And they didn't get an answer. And they didn't get an answer. Why? Well, when they were getting ready to fight at some point, it may have been before this, Saul went to God and asked for, whether we should go. his guide, wanted God's guidance, and God refused to answer. I mean, it was just no answer and then no answer. Well, that's true. They didn't have armor except for Saul and Jonathan. I think it goes back to the thing where Saul did the offered the sacrifice when he wasn't supposed to, and then God wouldn't answer him. That was in chapter 14 is where God wouldn't answer him. So I'm sure that's where it's at. Yeah, or it could be. Right. Okay, I'm sorry. That was when they were trying to get the answer was before he said, all right, it's between the rest of you and me and Jonathan. I got ahead of myself. I didn't have the one question written down, and that's why I got ahead of myself. Sometimes it just comes to me, and I want to ask something. And so that's why. It's because Saul had made this vow, and Jonathan had broke it. That's why they weren't getting an answer from God. So, yes. Yeah. Right. In AI, they got defeated by AI. Yes. Right. And that was part of this in here was they were so famished after they didn't want to wait until the blood drained out and everything. They just ate it with the blood still in it, which is a big no-no. Right. All right. Well, it's time, so let's join hands and we'll sing our dismissal chorus. And I will turn it over to Todd.